What up everyone, it's your boy X-Man87 here, bringing you another Marvel Legends video, and what I have for you today is the Marvel Legends What If Wave, the Watcher Build-A-Figure Series, Zombie Hunter Spider-Man action figure review. Before I get into everything, if you could please leave a thumbs up like rating on the video, it'll help show your support for my channel and I greatly appreciate it. Now, with that said, let's go! We're gonna kick things off by taking a look at the accessories first. So first up, we have this masked head, and you know what, the sculpt looks really nice. I have no problem with the sculpt. My problem here is the paint. As you can see, sadly there is no cobwebbing paint, and sadly it continues to be the pattern throughout this figure. The sculpting on the lens came out real nice too. You know, I gotta point out that this is an entirely new head sculpt. I thought it was reused from one of the other MCU Spider-Man figures, but it's not. So that is good. Again, the sculpt is good here, the paint is not, especially on this lens right here. You see that? Looks like someone's fingerprint got stuck there, and it's bad. Oh, this is so bad. Next up, we got some reuse of the MCU Spider-Man hands. So you got a pair of close-fisted hands right here, and you got the web-thwipping hands. And lastly is the Cloak of Levitation, and I gotta say, it looks pretty good. You got the gold painted right here. The rest is just, you know, plain red color, but I do like the texture they have on some of the areas. I like that the collar is real high too. I really like the flow to this. This looks really good. However, my one big issue with this cape is that it's very loose. As you saw right there, it just kind of has a tendency to pop off. It doesn't really latch on well. The cape looks best when your Spider-Man is in a vanilla pose, but if you're gonna do some fancy posing, you know, if you want him like web slinging or whatever it is, you're gonna experience that coming off. So I recommend you pose your Spider-Man first and then put the cape on. But even with that, look how, you see, look at that. It's just, it looks off, and I'm not even trying here. This is nowhere near my best Spider-Man pose I could put up. This is just, you know, me demonstrating to you guys what you're going to experience. I do want to see how this Doctor Strange cape looks on this Spider-Man. You know, no, doesn't look good. Keep in mind that this has a peg where this one doesn't have a peg hole, you know. So this Strange had a peg hole in it. It could plug in. This, because there is no hole, it's gonna look like it's sticking outwards like that. So yeah, it's a no-go here. However, this new cloak on this Doctor Strange looks pretty good. I like how everything looks nice and wavy, right? Even going with his skirt piece right there. I really like how this looks. You know, if you want to see the difference between the two capes, this one was very glossy, the old one. This one's more matte finish. You got more texture and design right here. But this is not a bad cape for him. Now taking a look at the default head, I am not a big fan of it. No, I'm not. It looks good in some angles, but mainly overall it just falls flat for me. I think the eyes look good for the most part, and you may not be able to tell head on, but if I angle it like so underneath, you can see that there is sculpting underneath the eye. Now in the animation, that would be highlighted in black, and so would be the bottom of the lip right here. See, they sculpted underneath there. So it would have brought out those nice animated highlights, especially on a show that heavily features cel shading on its characters. And I kind of think that's what this figure and most of this wave is missing, is that kind of cel shading to really make it pop. I think the cheeks are too rosy too. You know, my lights are kind of hitting it hard, but if I dim the camera a bit, you can see, yeah, he's got some like rosy cheeks, and he doesn't really have that in the show. I'm gonna take the cloak off here so you could take a better look at the hair sculpt all around. And as you can see, it's got that, you know, animated look to it. So the hair sculpt doesn't look that bad. I actually think it's decent, but it's missing some highlights on the hair. You know, it would have been nice to get some like some light paint work where those lines are to break up the hair sculpt, because in the animated show, again, you see some highlights in Peter's hair. I think that would have brought this out. Yeah, they could have done so much better here, especially when you consider the extraordinary job they did for the likenesses of the Into the Spider-Verse movie figures on those face sculpts. And if you've been following me for a long time, you know how I feel about animated looks being translated into plastic action figure form. It's hit or miss, and a lot of times it's usually a miss. It's very tricky to execute that 2D look into 3D. Now, taking a look at the rest of the body, you're gonna see some things missing from previous Spider-Man movie figures, and some parts that are new. So the upper and lower torso are new. I do like that spider emblem. It looks really cool. Like how big it is too. Looks really, really nice. And then you turn around here, you got the big spider emblem on the back. I don't know what's going on right there. I think it wasn't molded correctly in the factory. Looks like a big dent in there. But, you know, I like the red on it. It looks nice. And as you can see, no paint on the cobwebbing. You still get the texture here throughout the suit. And, you know, it doesn't really do much when you don't have the cobwebbing painted. You know, at least... You know, this Spider-Man, some other Spider-Mans before had that painted, no problem. See? Another thing they subtracted from this figure, the butterfly joints. They completely took them out. I thought this was reused because the only Spider-Man movie figure I can think of without the butterfly joints is the one that came in the 2-pack with MJ, because this one doesn't have butterfly joints. So I thought the upper torso and the lower torso were reused, and, you know, they're not. So this is totally brand new. Even the crotch piece here, as you can see, where this ends off on the red pattern, it's very pointy, and here it's round. Now the good thing about this is that we have pinless arms, and as you can see, the red is correct on the outside. There's no pins, nothing interfering, so that looks nice. On the inside, you know, no pins, so it's all blue. However, this is what throws it off. The peg is red, right? You could still see the red seeping through it. Especially if you bend them in, you see the red poking right through. So it's kind of like there is no escape with the red on the outside. And even when you look at the elbows, this is not painted right here. This side is not painted. I understand the peg not being painted, right? But they couldn't fill in the gaps right here on the blue. Right there too. You know? I mean, it would have looked a lot better. So when you look at it like this, yeah, it just throws it off. And when you look at the rest of the red side of the sleeve here, you can tell that the elbow is a much darker red tone than the rest of the red. Yeah, I just don't know how I feel about it. Well, actually, I do know. I don't like it, but, you know, it's nice to see pinless on a Spider-Man. However, with this being their first pinless Spider-Man, hopefully they will improve down the line to avoid, you know, this kind of issue of not filling in the gap where the blue is. I just hope that the comic ones are spot on, but I feel like we might run into an issue where the red would seep through. I'm curious to see how they're going to pull it off to make it look streamlined. However, it doesn't look bad at all when it's straightened out like this, you know. There's pros and cons to everything. Then you got the web shooters on the wrist, and they're not painted. It's just a gray plastic right there, sculpted. So that's a new piece right there, and I really do like how his arms come straight down and his hands can touch the side of his thighs. This is really good proportions right here. Yeah, they got the anatomy right there. I really like that. Also, I do like the black trimming to break up the blue and the red, especially that glossy paint. It looks really, really good. And then on the belt area, you get some silver in there. And the legs are not new, as these are reused from previous Spider-Man movie figures. You do get some paint detailing around the feet here, so I think this is supposed to be dirt or mud or maybe zombie blood. And it's just kind of weird that they did this and not spread it throughout the figure to have a nice balance. So you can see that this side of the leg has that kind of dirty wash to it, but the other side of the leg, nothing. The rest of the figure actually has nothing to balance that out, at least on the something on this side at least. Oh, actually, hold on a second. Yeah, right over here, just a little bit over here, it looks like. And it's not even that much. So, I don't know. I think the wash is off balance here. But there you go. There you have it. That's your Zombie Hunter Spider-Man. That does not look like a Zombie Hunter at all. Looks more like a Sorcerer. The Spidey Supreme. Spider Strange. Dr. Spider. The Sensational Sorcerer. Ooh, I kind of like that. It has a nice ring to it. So I tried taking a crack at head swapping this head with the movie Tom Holland head from Homecoming. And it does not work. It just kind of just sits on there. And I'll show you like how it looks. Yeah. I mean, you could put like some sticky tack, it'll hold it, but other than that, it's just gonna sit very low like that. Which means the Tom Holland head will not fit on this one, as the peg is just way too big. So, yep, no luck with that one. I did try the Iron Spider suit. Never liked how this neck was so long. And the neck is still long for this head. I think it's just the head, man. I don't know. But when I plug the Zombie Hunter head on the Iron Spider one, you can see it sits much better than this one. So, I don't know. I'm not going to swap this head on some comic Spider-Man figures because I don't like mixing MCU with comic stuff. But I just wanted to show you these head swaps in case you were curious. Now for articulation, his head moves that far up, moves that far down, left, right, some tilt. His arms move that far up, not that good. Down, all around, you got the shoulder swivel, bicep swivel, double jointed pinless elbows. You got the wrist swivel, wrist hinge. His ab crunch moves that far forward, which is not too bad. Moves that far back. You got the waist swivel. Legs move that far apart. It's not that good. They kick up that far back, full split. His legs rock around, thigh swivel, double jointed knees, and heel to the Zombie Hunter butt. Yes. And you got the ankles that move up that far, down that low, and the all-around ankle rockers. Now for some comparisons, here is Zombie Hunter Spider-Man next to Happy Hogan and Doctor Strange. Here he is next to the retro animated series Spider-Man and Ultimate Spider-Man. Here he is next to Peter B. Parker and Miles Morales from Into the Spider-Verse. Here he is next to two unmasked Tom Holland MCU Spider-Mans. And lastly, here he is next to some other MCU Spider-Man figures in different attires. Alright, and now to wrap things up, bottom line here is that this figure didn't do for me. I feel like this is another MCU Spider-Man figure that's been subtracted from features yet again. The only thing I can think of that's the highlight of this figure for me would be the pinless arms to get the correct blues in the inside and red on the outside without any pins interfering the sculpt or paint. Even with that, there are things a bit off with the arms. They took away butterfly joints here, removing a key point of articulation on Spider-Man figures. Whether it's comics, movies, animation, or video games, I feel it's a necessity for every Spider-Man figure to have for the best posability. Of course, there are a few exceptions when it comes to the aesthetics of whatever suit he's wearing, but this should have been an easy one as it's been done many times on this kind of body style. The Cloak of Levitation doesn't even stay latched on when trying to get certain poses with it on. That can be annoying to deal with. Only looks best and stays on properly when vanilla posed. Not having the cobwebbing painted takes away the appeal from its animated counterpart, as the line work / paint combination is needed to translate well for that kind of medium. Not even some cell shading, which the What If show is very heavy on cell shading as one of its main visual highlights. I understand not everyone is for cell shading as it may not blend in with the rest of their figures on the shelf. I get it, but if executed properly, I think those that are not fans would have warmed up to it for being accurate. The sculpt on the masked head doesn't bother me much, but the unmasked head sculpt is kind of flat and nowhere near as good as the Into the Spider-Verse animated head sculpts. So a major downgrade when comparing this to those figures from less than a year ago. And for the love of God, can we please get some wall-crawling hands for any Sony or MCU Spider-Man figures? Not one Marvel Legends Spider-Man figure has them. Not even the new No Way Home figures. For me, there is still no true definitive Marvel Legends Spider-Man movie figure that stands on a league of its own. The only one I can think that would be that is an updated, newly sculpted Tobey Maguire Spider-Man with the retro Spider-Man style of articulation. And if that has no wall-crawling hands, then I have lost all hope for any Legends Spider-Man movie figures, and I'll just stick with the import ones to get everything I need in a Spider-Man movie figure. My final rating is a 4 out of 10. The only real joy I had with this figure was taking a thumbnail pic. Having the same hands over and over again gets redundant with the same poses over and over again. And nothing new to bring to the table with these MCU-based Spider-Man figures. I'm very strict with my Spider-Man figures, and if you like this one, then I'm genuinely happy for you, but this didn't hit the Peter tingle for me. I don't like talking down on a figure, especially on a character I love, but I just gotta keep it real here. I have to call it down the middle and be honest. This will just be another Spider-Man figure on my MCU display that will only stand out from the rest of his Spidey suits because of his cape. So that was my review. What do you think of this Zombie Hunter Spider-Man? Are you grabbing or passing? What would you like to see with MCU Spider-Man movie figures going forward? Let me know, comment below, we'll chat about it. Follow me on Instagram if you haven't already, link is in the description below. Get your Marvel Legends What If wave at Big Bad Toy Store, link is in the description below. Hit the notification bell so you always know when my latest videos are up. Share and subscribe if you're new. See you on the next review. Peace, peace.